Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. We appreciate that very much. Before we get started, I introduce my guest. Just a couple of reminders how you could listen, tune in. We are live Monday through Friday from 3 to 4. You could tune in and listen to us on the radio at KDOW 1220 AM. You can also listen to us live online. So if you're not near a radio and you're somewhere else in a general listening area, you can go online to kdow.biz, and you can just tune in, click on the big old giant tab there that says Listen Live. You can listen to us anywhere on the Internet. Also, we're feeding live on Facebook, so thank you for those that are listening, following, and commenting. We appreciate that very much. Lastly, more importantly, make sure you download the podcast. That way you could follow us. You can listen to the show at your convenience when it's convenient for you. And when the time is right, we know that everybody's busy, and so it's a great way to do that is download the podcast. Now you go to iTunes and just type in Real Estate Radio Live, or you could go to our website. You could always go to the reradiolive.com and get your podcast that way. All right, most of you know the focus of the show, almost 8 years now, has been education and information. My objective, my goal when I started this show was to educate and inform the consumer to make you a better, to make better, wise choices in and around your real estate. So we work really hard to have great guests like today, content, information, and we'll continue to deliver that to you in many different ways. With that, let me invite my guest in, Amy Wan. She was with us, I think, a week or so ago. She's the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. Good to have you back, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me again.
This time in studio.
Yes, definitely.
So, again, we are doing this show. For those listening to the show via podcast, when you eventually do this, we do our live radio show, and then the content gets converted to the podcast. So we do that in the Bay Area. Before we get started, we're going to have a conversation about a number of different things. Some crowdfunding, also syndication. If you follow the show, you know we talked a little bit about the last couple of weeks, but we're going to bring up a couple of new topics today I think you'll be interested in. Before we get started, if you have any questions for Amy during the show, there's a couple of ways you could communicate with us. 1-800-516-1220 is the toll-free line if you want to give us a call. We could take those calls during the show, or you could text your questions in 408-838-9060. All right, so Amy, why don't we first, if you could give the listeners and the viewers a little bit of your background and then what you're currently up to today.
Yeah, sure. So I am a real estate crowdfunding and syndication attorney by training, although today I run my own legal technology company that basically seeks to automate what I used to do as an attorney, right? So, I started my career in the federal government, working for different regulatory agencies, then was general counsel at one of the first real estate crowdfunding platforms out there, Patch of Land. What we did was we basically syndicated fix and flip loans to the crowd, and spent some time as a partner at a real estate syndication firm, and now basically my challenge in life is to see if I can automate my job.
There you go. That's wise to do that. All right, well, it's going to be great. We have a lot of information to cover today, and again, if you have any questions for Amy during the show, or me, or just, as I'll always say, too, if there's any questions that's not related to the show today, you could always still check in and let us know. So I guess the best way to start, I always like to do, with our listeners, what I find, Amy, is they're really hungry for investment opportunities, to understand more about investments, to understand more about the syndication. So maybe just start and give us kind of a basic 101 on syndication, how it works, so that people have a little better understanding. Hopefully they could track and follow us.
Yeah, sure. So syndication at its very core is actually really simple. It's basically just group investment.
Okay.
Period, right? Now, if we're going to get a little bit deeper into technical detail, now we're talking about, well, what kind of group investment, right? And it's usually group investment from passive investors, right? So let's say, for example, you're doing a deal, you've got 4 people involved in the deal, they're all putting in money, but maybe one person is doing investor relations. The other one is sourcing the deal. The other one is fundraising. The third one is doing construction management. They're all very active in the deal. That's not really syndication, right? So we're really talking about passive investors, not active ones. And the other thing, the other distinguishing factor I'd like to say is that we're not really talking about just 1 or 2 person deals, right? So let's say, you've got 1 or 2 people, they're active investors on a real estate deal, and, maybe there's 1 passive investor.
Okay.
Now, there's some states, some jurisdictions that might count this as a security or a syndication, but really, by and large, I don't really see a lot of paperwork coming in those types of transactions. So at least for me, a lot of the deals I see, it's really where you have 2 or more passive investors.
Okay.
So really, we're looking, 1, at passive investors, and 2, there's got to be 2 or more of them.
So you help people get this set up, make sure they're doing everything legal. So other than automating your business and trying to do everything so that you don't have to do anything, so you represent a lot of the people that I'm guessing that set these up, and they come to you for assistance or really to help them set it up legally. Talk a little bit about how that works and how your services work on that end.
Yeah, so I actually, I like to go out and ruffle feathers and say, hey, we take this automated approach. In reality, I don't necessarily believe in technology for the sake of technology, right? And there are a lot of things that even if you could teach a computer to do it, it doesn't necessarily make sense to teach a computer to do it. So we use a hybrid approach, right? There are components of the process that are automated, and then there are other parts that aren't. You're still sitting there working with a human attorney at the end of the day, right? It's just that for the rote, simple parts that, it's kind of a waste of the time for an attorney or paralegal, that's the part we automate.
I see.
The part where human judgment, human creativity still comes into play, that's where, I think the attorney is really providing most of the value. So there's a lot of things like, we'll use electronic signatures for the engagement agreement. We are integrated with Stripe, so you can pay by credit card. You don't have to go to the bank, sit there, send a wire or send a check, God forbid, right? There are parts of the intake process, for example, right? I like to liken our system to TurboTax, right? You sit there, you read these questions, you answer them to the best of your ability, but at the end of the day, if you've ever used TurboTax, like I've used it before, right? Sometimes you come across a question or two and you're not exactly sure how to answer it. So we asked people, fill out the questionnaire to the best of your ability, but we're still going to have someone review that questionnaire with you at the end of the day just to make sure you answered everything correctly, because bad input equals bad output, right?
Yeah, as you said that, I think the other thing I think we worry about when we're doing that ourselves is that if we answer it the wrong way, what path is it going to take us down to, right? Is it going to take us down path A when we should be going down path B? So that's where the human element comes in. Yeah,
so that's really, you bring up a really good point. When I started this project, I thought maybe I can automate 100% of 80% of transactions, and now as we've built out these products and we've tested them on users, it's more like we can automate 80% of maybe 60% of transactions, right? But the part that one cannot automate is the part where really human advisory comes into play, right? Like the past couple of days, I've had phone conversations with people saying, I know you chose this structure, but FYI, I don't think it's a good structure for you guys, and the machine can draft it for you, but it's the human coming in and saying, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea.
Okay.
Or, you answer a question one way, and, I look at the questioner and I say, hey, have you thought about this instead, right? And so that's really where human judgment comes into play. I don't think you can automate that, or at least not today.
At least not today. So you have people, I know you do a lot of speaking and you do educational training. Talk a little bit about, we have a little less than, a minute or so to go before our first break. So briefly kind of explain to the audience, the importance of education, information. I know you're a big fan of it. I am too. And we just can't get enough of it, especially if we're getting ready to make an investment or make some decisions. Talk a little bit about your philosophy in that.
Right. I mean, I think the most important part of not even just real estate investing, but just investing in general, or just, having a healthy, financially independent lifestyle is, understanding money, understanding what you're doing with that, right? And, to the extent that one can educate themselves on, hey, this is what I'm investing in. Let me sit down. I know it's boring, but read the PPM or at least the important parts of it. Like that at the end of the day is really important. Yeah,
I would agree. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Amy Wan. She is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. If you have any questions for Amy about investing, we're going to get more into details of some of the crowdfunding maybe and some new things coming into the marketplace as well. 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Those folks on Facebook, we're going to stay with you. We'll be trying to take a quick break from our live show, and we'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We're with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. In studio today, I have the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal, Amy Wan. She has been on the show a couple different times, and now she's live in studio with us. Good to see her in person. And we're talking today a little bit about a number of different things. Investments in general. We talked a little bit about syndication. Amy simplified it for us, and we're going to get into some more details. As we took the first break, we were talking a little bit about education, how important that is, and I'm a big fan of it too. I started the show, the foundation and the premise is that, and the whole idea is that I'll tell people all the time that, we're not really trying to make everybody experts, but we really do want to encourage people to learn, educate yourself, so that when you do get into a position of making some of these decisions, quite frankly, it's a lot of money on real estate or partnerships, at least have all the information as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest part of it, is not so much an expert, but even and the other thing that comes to mind, Amy, maybe you could talk to it for a minute or so, and that is the right partnerships, the right relationships with, for you to do the legal work. In other words, if you're getting involved with any of this kind of thing, and you haven't done it before and you don't have a track record with people, how important is that to make sure you're affiliated with the right groups of people making these decisions for you?
I think it's really important. I've seen a lot of people come through to the extent that maybe it's their first or second deal ever, right? They're beginners. They're just getting started. The ones who try and go about it their own have a much tougher run, right? And for good reason, right? They maybe don't have that investor base, right? They don't exactly have the greatest idea of what they're doing. So it's not impossible, but I do think that the failure rate is a lot higher and they struggle a lot more versus the beginners that come through and they have a really good, for example, real estate syndication coach, right? And maybe the syndication coach, they're not necessarily just helping them with the purchase or investor relations or coaching them, but they also might bring with them their whole investment network. So to the extent that this beginning syndicator is not able to raise the funds that they need by the time that they need to close escrow on the property, they can still kind of rely on their experienced coach or partner to not necessarily come help save them, but he or she may bring not just an experience, but a network of people. Like you said, relationships they're so important. I think especially in the real estate industry, they're everything.
Well, I would agree. And here's the good news. I say it all the time. Here's the good news. We have all this information at our fingertips, which is great. Big fan of it. But then there's the other side of it, right? You have to be careful because what do you believe? Who do you believe? How do you believe? And there's certainly the online activity we know about. If you listen to any radio shows and podcasts, online in terms of real estate, there's all kinds of different models, right? Yeah. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll sell you a program for this, or sign up for our newsletter and you sell. So what kind of suggestions, or I guess the other thing, again, with the theme of continuing to educate our audience, if someone's just really getting started in this, other than trying to educate themselves and figure out what group to, how do you stay away or be careful from, maybe groups or organizations that are really just trying to sell something instead of if they have the best interest out for you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
I'm trying to be as diplomatic.
In a very nice way. It's funny. So we're up here in the Bay Area, and this must have been a couple months ago, but my friend and I ordered a Lyft, and the Lyft driver was telling us, during the ride that he had basically spent the last money he had in his bank account on this real estate course that was promising that he could flip a house and that he'd get 100% financing. And he was like, no, this real estate coach is really good. And I asked him the name. Yeah. I literally looked it up then and there on Bigger Pockets, and I just felt so bad for the guy because people on Bigger Pockets were like, oh, this guy is a total scam, right? So, it is hard. There are so many real estate educational materials, courses, things out there, and really I think, although there's not one trick in the book to distinguish whether or not, it's a legitimate service or not, I would say, well, look at the people that surround them. Go and ask their previous students or their previous mentees, how much did you pay? What are you doing right now, right? If you are doing real estate syndication and your student, like 80% of your students have not done a syndication, 1 or 2 years after the course, I think that might be problematic, right? There's a lot of different models out there as well. Some people are asking for upfront flat fees and they try to upsell you. And then there's others who maybe they'll take a cut of your deal, right? So there's a lot of different models out there. At the end of the day, as anti-technology as this might be, I would say go around, interview people,
Yeah.
get good referrals, and, check bigger pockets. People in bigger pockets talk a lot.
Yeah, right. And the other one that I would say, which is always to me a red flag, is if you ever get responses like, well, I only have a certain amount of time and, we only have until tomorrow, or this deal runs out at the end of the month, or, we could talk about this on it. Those are all, to me, red flags, right? If someone's really interested in your best interest, trying to educate you on something or answer some questions, you have to ask yourself, am I being sold on something, or is this person really doing what's best for me?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think it's always very good when a coach is financially aligned and incentivized along with the student, right? So, for example, they're sharing in the deal or something like that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But you know what? I've seen a lot of coaches who they're selling online courses. They're very upfront about the fact that you have to go there and pay your dues, and you're the one who has to put in the hard work. And these are legitimate people. So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, right? And sure, there are some coaches out there where they'll put out a smaller educational product because they know that a lot of people aren't going to take all the steps necessary. And that's okay, right? Because at the end of the deal, if the students don't want to put in the work and invest instead with the coach, that's okay, as long as I think people are being upfront and forward about it.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree 100%. So we have a little less than, we have a minute or so before our next break. Why don't we, I'll throw it out there, you could throw it out there. So you had mentioned right before you started the show, you said some ICOs, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is just another code word. And of course, Amy's on top of everything. So explain to the audience real quick, don't give them all the details, but what that stands for, and then when we come back, we could dive into the details of it.
Yeah, sure. So an ICO is an initial coin offering. Sometimes it's also called an initial token offering or a token sale, but it's basically part of this much larger crypto currency, Bitcoin, blockchain thing that's happening right now.
It is, boy, and it is happening for sure. And yeah, when we come back, I want to talk more about it because there is so much excitement and kind of buzz around all the things you just mentioned, so we'll get into more detail. All right, we're going to take another quick break. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, sitting alongside Amy Wan. She's the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. If you have any questions about syndication, investing, any of this stuff, she is the expert. Give us a call, 1-800-516-1220. I'll be back with you to continue the live portion of the show in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We have in studio today Amy Wan, who's the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. We are talking about syndication, a little bit of crowdfunding. We haven't really quite got to crowdfunding because we want to talk to you about the new, shiny, exciting stuff that we were just talking about offline. It is there's so much to technology. Maybe it's because we live in the Silicon Valley and we work here, and we're inundated with it. People listening to this show and in Missouri are probably thinking, who are these crazy people? That's probably what they're thinking. Anyway, before we took a break, you teased the audience a little bit about what this ICO, so initial Bitcoin offering. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's not passing the basket. It's not anything like that. This is actually, we're not putting coins in machines. So tell us a little bit about how, let's see, I think maybe the best thing to do, take a step back, is maybe if you could give the audience a little bit of maybe brief history of, because some people may not understand Bitcoin and the coin and the just kind of the way some of this technology is working, or maybe if you could explain kind of the foundation behind it before we get into the details of some of the real estate part of it.
Yeah, sure. So all of this basically started with Bitcoin. And I know the lay opinion of that is, anything Bitcoin is inherently fraudulent or illegal. That's not quite the attitude in the cryptocurrency
Coming
industry.
from the banks, by the way.
Well, some of the banks. Some of them are
right.
doing interesting things now. So basically, an anonymous founder released this white paper, released this thing into the world that resulted in Bitcoin. It was built on the blockchain, which is basically distributed ledger technology. The best way I can explain it is, think of it as a giant database, but with a lot more functionality and, extremely capable of a lot of different things. I think the primary aspects of it is that it's decentralized. So it's not one party or a couple parties controlling something, but, it's the community, in theory, controlling everything. So it's decentralized, and the ledger is supposed to be immutable, right? You cannot go back and fix a mistake, because what is there is there. It's there. It's written down in history. You can't change it. So it started with Bitcoin. The other blockchain or protocol that's very popular today is called Ethereum. It's a little bit more recent. They have their own cryptocurrency. And, that one, for many reasons, has become very popular. It's really taken off because a lot of people are able to build things on top of that protocol.
Okay.
Now, last year, there was this grand experiment on Ethereum, and it was called the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, right? Basically, what it was a decentralized fund. They basically went out to the community and said, hey, everybody, contribute your Ether to this fund, and then we're going to vote on what projects we want to fund and not fund. And if you have bought into this fund, it's almost like you have voting power, right? Okay. Well, that didn't do so well for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons is because the DAO ended up getting hacked for about $50-60 million. So, we still have some issues with this space today, but basically that kind of kicked off this new trend that's been going on for about a year now, and that's what we call ICOs, initial coin offerings. You can almost think of it as an IPO, initial public offering, except it's with coins, right? And we're not talking about, quarters,
physical coins,
nickels, right? These are basically digital tokens, right? You can call them coins, you can call them tokens, whatever you want, but you almost think of it as, it's almost like, we once had the formal paper stock certificates. Now we have digital stock certificates. I think of coins or tokens as, the digital token version of something. So there's a lot of different types of ICOs out there, right? Some of them have some of them are utility tokens. So if you have a token, you can use it for something, a service, a product, whatever. And then you have a lot of tokens that, for example, they represent maybe equity in a company, or you're buying into a decentralized network, or, at least in the case of real estate, I've for probably the past 6 months now, I've been getting a lot of calls of real estate folks who are interested in starting a real estate fund via an ICO. So the ICO is the way for them to go and raise money. They will issue tokens, and the tokens will represent interest in their fund. So, it's almost like ownership into an LP or into a GPLP structure or an LLC. Sometimes they get some sort of distribution, or maybe they have ownership in a property or some properties. Yeah. There's a lot of different variations. I think one of the first real estate related ICOs I saw, you might laugh at this, but it was to buy tokens that were backed by land in Siberia. I don't know much about land in Siberia. I know it as a frozen tundra. Yeah. Supposedly there's supposed to be oil under it. I'm not quite sure. They were going to build houses on top of it.
Speculation there.
Yeah, a little bit of speculation. Yeah. I personally love American real estate. So, and I think over the past couple months we've seen a couple of different real estate-backed ICOs, but it's something that I think is increasingly trending in the community. And when people sit down and talk, well, what's the difference between syndication, crowdfunding, and ICOs in the real estate sector, they're all interrelated, right? Syndication is basically traditional offline group investment. Crowdfunding is online group investment. And ICOs are a subset of crowdfunding. It's online group investment via some sort of token mechanism on the blockchain.
Now, that's a good explanation. Plus, isn't also along the way the idea, I know initially this makes people nervous on a couple of different levels, but how would I explain it? Maybe doing away with or eliminating or bypassing the intermediaries. So, the idea of we need a bank, or if we transfer money, it's got to go to a bank first, and they have to verify the transfer, and then it has to go here. Is it also supposed to kind of do away with, and an example of real estate would be title, right? I mean, some people would say, right now I know they're storing millions and millions and millions of data in the cloud about title, because one of the biggest issues and we deal with this all the time, people go, my God, why am I paying so much money for title insurance? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, and the easy answer is, well, if you have a cloud on title, if something ever happens, blah, 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 blah. And so that's how we sell it. But the bottom line is, as people are getting more educated, more information, they're like, are we going to need this eventually? In other words, are we going to need a title company as part of a real estate transaction?
Right. So stepping away from the ICO industry, the fundraising mechanism for a second, the technology that all this stuff is done on is called the blockchain, right?
Right.
There's actually a company down in Southern California that's working on this. It's Velox.re, and they actually did a pilot project with Cook County. And, Cook County was basically one of the first counties in the country to say, hey, we're interested in putting real estate title on the blockchain. Yeah. And theoretically, if you can do that, and you can basically, because remember, this ledger is immutable. Right? This is the record. If you can say, hey, this person owns this piece of land and it's been recorded on the blockchain, you can get enough of that to happen, then presumably one day we might not even need title insurance. Yeah. Now, the big issue with an adoption of this system in the United States is that we have a lot of incumbents in the industry, the title industry,
yes, we do.
A lot of the local governments, they don't even have an online record of title. You're literally sitting there sifting through old paper records, right? It's really hard to do this in the U.S. They're trying to also implement, for example, land title systems in other less developed countries, and where there are fewer industry incumbents and less bureaucracy nowadays, I think that's where we're tending to see a little bit more success with this type of system. But I do think the U.S. needs to catch up.
Yeah, there's so much going on in this, and this is intriguing to a lot of different people, and it's going to change eventually. It's going to change the way we do business, but not so much overnight. There's a lot of talk about this. I know some companies are doing a lot of research, and so as it unfolds, it'll be really interesting how it works. Before we go, we have another break, and towards the end, I'll share it with you. If someone wants more information about you, Amy, how to contact you, what's the best place to do that? How do they reach you?
Yeah, sure. So our website is bootstraplegal.com. And if they want to, talk about syndication or anything like that, we do have a consultation button on the website.
Okay.
If they just want to follow and, see where we are, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, or they can, basically, Bootstrap Legal has social media presences on Twitter, LinkedIn, things of that sort.
All right. We're going to take our last break. We're going to come on back and finish up. If you have any questions for Amy, 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back to continue and finish up the show in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending, and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us again this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, sitting alongside Amy Wan. She is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. We have discussed today in our short time together, a lot of different things. We haven't really got to crowdfunding, maybe. We'll talk a little bit about that, maybe, just a bit. We talked about syndication, and then we jumped into this new interesting initial coin offer. Talked a little bit about Bitcoin, and mainly just to round things up, it's great to have someone like Amy on because she has the legal background, but also I would say that, you're very interested and focused on what the future holds, and obviously you spend a lot of time and money and resources on how try to improve processes and systems, and you're a big believer in that.
Yeah.
So forward thinking is good, and also keeping an eye on the market and what's happening. But I guess the piece that I want to, before we let you go today, to talk a little bit about a few minutes is just kind of the opportunities out there today. I like to share this, especially when I have guests on of your quality and your education, in terms of you've been doing this for a while and you understand it. You've seen people, you've seen them succeed. You see what works. You've seen people take chances and say, "Hey, I really think." Maybe you could talk a little bit for a few minutes about, real estate in general and even the market today. Is it still a good idea to invest, or is it always a good idea to invest depending on the project, who you're with? And maybe just an overview of your thoughts about real estate as an investment asset. I mean, a lot of people these days, and I hear it all the time, some wonderful stories. People now used to hear, how much do I need to save? How much do I need in my 401k? Do I have my pension? And now, you're hearing a lot of stuff like, I'm going to buy 10 properties over the next 5 years. I'm going to pay those off, and at the end of those 10 years. So, I mean, you're hearing a lot of that too, right, over the last decade or so. Is real estate still a great investment? Is it always a great investment? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
So first of all, I will go off and say that I am not a registered investment advisor. You should talk to your professional, yada, yada.
Sounds like a good attorney. Doesn't she sound like she is?
But what I will say is this, real estate investing, I don't think is a one-size-fits-all thing, right? You can invest in residential.
Yeah.
You can invest in commercial. You can do debt, equity. Even on the note side, you can do performing notes or distressed notes, right? And so there is a different strategy for every person, and it's whatever fits the amount of work that they want to actually invest and what kind of returns they're looking for. Now, the beauty of real estate is at the end of the day, there is an asset there, a tangible asset that you can that you can touch. And, you know, unlike a lot of other things in this world that are less tangible, right? A startup or a new restaurant or we're making a film or something, right? Like, at the end of the day, it is harder, not impossible, but it is harder for one to lose all of their initial investment, because presumably at the end of the day, if you have a good operator, you should be able to still recover something.
Right.
Because there's still a building there at the end of the day. However, different people have different risk profiles, right? Like, you know, I'll invest in real estate, but I've also invested in debt notes in restaurants. You know, we're in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of angel investors and VCs up here that they're not looking for tiny, you know, to us it might be a lot, 10, 20, 30% returns might be a lot. They're looking at investments that they think one day can return the entire fund 100 times over, right?
Exactly.
So everyone's got a different investment profile. So it's hard to say for any one person, like, this is or is not for you. Kind of just depends on what your goal is.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's well said. And there's so many, all these different opportunities. I'll always say, and you'll hear me talk about this all the time, again, make sure you do your homework. Make sure you do your due diligence. Ask friends, coworkers, family members, you know, if they've experienced it. Please don't let your ego get in the way and, you know, think that you have all the answers, especially if you haven't done something like this, before. So we have a little less than 2 minutes left. Just a bit, if you would, finish up on kind of crowdfunding, the concept for people. Just remind everybody what that's all about and how they might be able to participate in that even as individual investors. Yeah,
sure. So crowdfunding, like I said, is basically online group investment, right? The most popular type of crowdfunding today, I would say, is the one done through Rule 506C, which is a relatively new rule, but it's basically it's accredited crowdfunding. You can go out, you can advertise and solicit, but you can't take non-accredited investors. There are a few mechanisms under which you can take non-accredited investors. So, you know, on the sponsor side, the sponsor needs to sit there if they want to do crowdfunding and decide, what's my best strategy? What is my goal? On the investor side, they have to realize that, you know, to the extent that you are writing larger checks, that it's accredited only, the returns might be higher. They might be better deals. On the non-accredited side, you're not really going to be investing in a la carte. It's more likely going to be large funds of several different properties, right? So, for example, I'm invested in the Fundrise Regulation A plus E-REIT, right? And they've got a lot of different ones, but at the same time, the buy-in is only, what, $1,000 or $2,000. Very good. All right, we are just about out of time. Amy, thank you so much. It's always good having you here. Hopefully we'll have it back in a couple of months, maybe. Yeah, definitely. Would love to. We'll see where things are by then. All right, for more information, it is bootstraplegal.com, right? Yes. All right, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in this afternoon. For more information, go to reradiolive.com. Until tomorrow, have a great afternoon and take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at reradiolive.com. reradiolive.com.